Okay.
Structure fire. I remember some things, but not like once they took.
He does that fire department.
Yeah. This time I'd like to go ahead and call to order the West Baton Rouge Parish Fire Protection District Number 1 Board of Commissioners special meeting for Thursday, March 13th, 2025. Butch, do you mind leading us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, Butch. Council log in attendance. That should be good. The record show we have a quorum. Item 4, approval of the minutes. A, consider adoption of the minutes of the regular meeting of October 24th, 2024. Have a motion by Mr. Crowe, second by Mr. Hotar to approve those minutes. I'll go ahead and open the machines to vote for approval. Minutes are approved. Item 5, Fire Chief report. Go ahead there, Mr. Butch Browning.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and Council. It's a great, always a great opportunity to come before you all, but I'm really proud to come before you this afternoon to really tell you some of the success of the investment that you all have put into the department over the last 2.5 years and really the hard work of the firefighters here. Number one, to talk to you about the fire rating, which I know you've heard, but I thought that you all owed a little more in-depth discussion of what the fire rating entailed and what we were able to accomplish. Not too long, I promise, not too long. And then secondly, I want to update you on what's going on with the EMS system, because we've already done some remarkable things. So I guess Michelle's going to click. Okay, so, first off, as you all ever read, effective February 1st, we were awarded a Class 3 rating parish-wide. Which is a very significant accomplishment, a very hard accomplishment, because we traditionally had 5 different ratings. So we were able to consolidate to 5 different ratings. Now, when they do a fire rating, they come every 5 years to grade. So in 2022, Port Allen and Rose Hill would do for ratings. The other ones would subsequently happen after that. So if you look at where we stood before the rating, which by the way was a snapshot of what we did in 2023, and our hose testing, hydrant testing, and some activities of 22 and 23. So if you look at the traditional ratings that we had a 5 in Lobdell, a 4 in Port Allen, a 4 in Bruley-Addis, a 6 in Irwinville, and a 5 in Rose Hill. What this rating allowed us to do was credit our personnel parish-wide. When we had the 5 different ratings, basically you had 5 different departments. So if you could imagine having 5 different public works departments or 5 different library groups or 5 different recreation departments, there's a significant amount of duplication. But more specifically, it allowed us to take those personnel and train them one time and use them on one roster parish-wide. And I'll explain it to you a little more in a minute. We had tremendous improvement in our water and hydrant flow capabilities. Certainly the numbers I saw on hydrant flows, which is a credit to the parish's public works and the city of Port Allen's public works, those flows were a lot better. In Irwinville and Rose Hill, in their traditional ratings, they didn't flow fire hydrants and use fire hydrants up there. We were able to use them on the grading, which helped us with individual buildings to get better fire flows. And of course, the consolidated training and fire prevention were tremendous. We scored extremely high in training, both the career people and the volunteers who came to training, and our fire prevention efforts were also phenomenal. And the last thing it did was it eliminated the duplication we had in equipment. We've probably eliminated 6 fire engines and 3 service trucks in our total fleet. And in those individual ratings, you had to have those, so the consolidation did that. So as it relates to the Class 3, always the first question, what's the benefits? Well, I think the most important benefit is the accountability to the taxpayers. We have truly demonstrated with the budget that's given to the fire department that the money's being spent to the best of its ability to provide the best level of emergency services. I can remember 2.5 years ago, there were things that needed to be changed. There were expenses that we should have been expending differently. We have truly worked with the administration and really made this budget a budget that's accountable for every cent of the taxpayers' money. And I'm very proud of that. Obviously, lowering the insurance premiums for business and residences in the parish is going to be tremendous. I mean, some folks will see up to a 25% savings on their homeowners and business insurance. Businesses will see even more, because when you start underwriting businesses that have multi-million-dollar stock, you know, that insurance will go up really high if you have a high rating. So we hope to really save the businesses even more. You know, improved response times and overall safety has always been what we've tried to do, and it's done some of that because we've built the crossover equipment. You know, it enhanced public safety and community risk reduction. You'll see in our community risk reduction points how we really leverage that. And I think that the last thing is we have a stronger infrastructure. We're better managing our resources, but now we have data. I can show you moving forward what it takes to maintain that class 3, and I can show you what it takes to make it better. We have empirical data that's created by the Insurance Services Offices, which is a national group that underwrites insurance and administered by Property Insurance. Am I going fast enough?
Oh, you're good.
I hate reading slides, but if I start talking off the cuff, I'm going to leave so much out. So you might ask, what were some of the drivers that made us do the consolidated rating? Well, we had some threats, and we recognized 2.5 years ago that the 5 different gradings just would not work, because the personnel have to be assigned to a department. So there's a PIL requirement that says on a structure fire, which by the way we have one that's going on right now, just came in. When a structure fire occurs, you have to have 4 personnel from your department on that structure fire. So it's not 3 people from Port Allen, 2 people from Irwinville. They got to be 4 people from that grading. When we looked at that, that was knowing that Port Allen and Rose Hill would have to be graded in 2023. We felt that Port Allen would have retrograded from a 4 to a 5 because of some things that weren't done. But when we looked at Rose Hill, we truly in 2023 had structure fires that only had 1 person, and that was the person on duty being paid. So automatically Rose Hill would have retrograded to a class 10. When you look at in the subsequent years, right now we'd be doing the other departments, Brewley, Addis, Lobdell, and Irwinville, and those departments too did not have, they had structure fires where you might have had 6 or 8 people there, but they weren't 4 from that department. So it was imperative that we hustled, and I know that was when President Berthelot was here, and Jason came, and we met with Property Insurance and said, look, give us a year to get the consolidated rating done. And so this is a true success, because this would have been a heck of a threat, and if we'd had areas go down to a class 10, it would have just been bad. And the problem is, once they retrograde you, you got to operate for a whole year. Even if you hired 1 million people to work in the fire department, they make you operate for a whole year before they'll regrade you again. So again, that was a big success. So I'll give you the breakdown of the points. So the scoring is a total of 106 points. It's a class 1 through 10, class 1 being the best. At the points of 90, that's a class 1. At the points of 80, that's a class 2. At the points of 70, that's a class 3. We're 3. So if you look, we did very well in communications. There's a few little things we could do to pick up there. Our worst out of everything we did is fire department. We scored 26 out of 97, 26.97 out of 50 for the fire department. And the biggest loss, we lose roughly about 26 points or so. Other 26 points, we lose about 19 of the points on manpower, because we only scored 1.28 on manpower, which is a maximum of 15, and we only scored 4 out of 10 on what's called operational considerations, which is station distribution. It's the fact that we have stations that are unmanned and we get penalized for those trucks not make it there in a quick fashion. Both of those numbers are picked up by having more people. Water supply, we did really well. The best water supply number, with the fire department number and the water supply number, the best we've ever had in the parish, 36 out of 40. I got to point out diversions, because that's how the people who know how to count and how to make sure it's not a disadvantage really hurt you. So we lost 6.96 of the 26.97 points in fire department to diversion. When they use this grading, there's a factor they build in that if your water supply is better than your fire department, they subtract numbers away. So in other words, it does us no good to improve the water. Right. We got to improve the fire department. Now, community risk reduction and the hydrant, GIS, and operational policy are not part of the diversions. So I just want to point that out to you, because I got a story to go with that. So anyway, 73.65, a good 3.5 points into a class 3, excellent numbers. So the areas of improvement, we have got to increase the number of on-duty firefighters, not only from a rating standpoint, but from an operational standpoint. We have units that we can't respond because they're not staffed. The ambulance service has helped a little bit where we can move ambulances to maybe pick up a fire truck, but that's still a shell game that we play with our call volume. Expanding our training programs, which we've done a great job, and really that training center will pick us up a lot, and I'll show you the training points in a minute. And the last thing is adding fire hydrants in the parish. So one of the things that we had to do, and I know a lot of you were expecting to hear about this rating in January, and the reason you didn't is because we found a glitch in the water supply where we had residential and commercial areas that were outside of 1,000 feet of a fire hydrant. Why 1,000 feet? Because we carry 1,000 feet on the truck. Outside of that, you either have to do a water hauling or you can do something innovative like we did, and we created a hose tender. Now, we do water hauling up north in Irwinville and Rose Hill, so that wasn't the issue there. The issue was actually places in Port Allen, places in Addis, where we've got some buildings that are over 6,000 feet away in the south. So we overcome it by purchasing it. We took an old reserve engine, took the tank out and converted it to a hose tender. So it carries 6,000 feet of large diameter hose. So we can actually be 6,000 feet away from a water source and pump a fire, which is a great asset to have. I hope we don't never have to be 6,000 feet, but there are legitimate commercial and large fires that occur that you need 2,000 and 3,000 because maybe the hydrant at the building, you're using everything it can to put fires out. So we real quickly built this truck at a very cheap price. It was basically just the cost of buying the hose. We already had the vehicle. So that helped us do that process. But at the end of the day, we know we need more fire hydrants to be more practical and do the things that we do. So on the personnel needs, again, this is the most important part, and yes, it's the most expensive part in what we need. Currently, we have 12 fire stations. We man 6 of those fire stations with 7 personnel. So on the grading, we were awarded 1.28 points out of 15 for personnel. So from a matrix standpoint, from a factual standpoint, we are not staffed like we need to be, and I think everybody knows that. And we've been working to be responsible with the monies that we have to get the most out of employees, and this rating is a result of that. But certainly, I would not be doing my job if I didn't tell you our staffing is at critical portions right now. And it all centers around what the rating requires using NFPA 1710, which if we used NFPA 1710, we would pick those numbers up on that operational considerations in our station distribution, and that is getting a fire truck to 95% of the calls in 4 minutes and 60 seconds from getting the call from 911. And we do that probably a lot in Port Allen with one person, probably a lot in Bruley with one person. In the rural areas, not so much. So increasing manpower would get us there to do that. We lack the capacity to respond to multiple 911 calls. I mean, our call volume, as I'll share with you here, is just, it's a lot. Last year we had, over 2,600 calls. That's about 7.2 calls a day. In January and February of this year, we ran 631. If you amortize that out for a whole 12-month period, that's over 3,800 calls. And that's indicative of the parish growing. A lot of people say, well, so give me some ideas of what your calls are. Well, it's real simple. I mean, we got the retirement home there in Bruley that never was there before. Well, now that that's there, I mean, that's good for about 3 or 4 calls a week now, because you got an older population living there. You've got businesses that are doing things. It's the nature of the growth. And I'm sure you can all look back in 20 years ago, and you didn't have those kind of activities going on where you're a hub to a lot of things in the community. So the call volume does not surprise me, nor does it make me think that it won't get even worse. And the last thing is we have to send multiple engines to single engine calls. For an example, somebody calls in and says, I have a trash fire in my yard, or somebody calls in and says, I broke my finger. Okay, we're having to send 2 fire engines to that call to at least get 2 people there. So we tie up a lot of our resources when these multiple calls start happening to be able to answer other calls. And I actually have some numbers for you up north. I mean, our calls up north have been, I think we ran 7 calls. We had a day on Friday, we ran 7 calls in a 12-hour period, and 3 of them were up north. So it's been really crazy. So let me go back to that grading, and when I say fire department, that's that 26.97 points that we got on fire department. So if you compare that to the previous ratings, we made tremendous progress. That number was 20 in Lobdell, that number was 24 in Port Allen, 23 in Addis and Bruley, 11 in Irwinville, 19 in Rose Hill. So this demonstrates the positive aspect of the consolidation, because we're getting the credit for the personnel and training on a parish-wide level. So let's talk about training. Now, training is part of those 50 points of the fire department. We've scored 7.10 in training. The max is 9. Traditional ratings, 1.28, 3.48, 3.31, 1.69, 0.97. So we're really doing a lot of training and doing a much, and I think that's really why I think we've been able to overcome a lot of the things that we've been doing, because we do have a better trained workforce. It reflects what they're doing. The community risk reduction is our fire prevention programs. Again, if you look at those historically ratings, we weren't getting very much points at all for fire prevention. You know, you all funded a full-time fire prevention person like you did the training, and that job certainly showed its worth. And again, that was a true 5.08 points of the core rating. That wasn't subject to the diversion, so that really helped us out. So the next steps, if you ask me, you know, how do we earn the Class 2 rating? Well, basically we got to earn 6.35 points of additional credit to get a 2. Now, if we did the things that I'm recommending, 3.5 of those points would be that diversion that would go away. So we really have to get about 3.5 points to do it. So, you know, basically, it goes without saying, you know, our career and volunteer people are the most important asset, and we got to maintain their safety. And I tell you, we put our firefighters in difficult situations. When they pull up at a building burning, and they pull up by themselves and they have to make that decision. Do I protect the exposure? Do I catch a fire hydrant because I might need more water? Or do I have to try and go in there and save somebody who may be trapped? And that's just a fact, you know. So their safety is the number one concern, and I know it's y'all's concern. We're trying to weigh all those things. You know, we believe we need a total of 13 firefighters on duty instead of 7. So that's 18 people that would get us to that route. If we did that, we'd have 2 people on the 6 stations that are manned engines. That with the ambulances that come, we can pull up to a fire in about 4 or 5 minutes with 4 people. And whatever might show up with volunteers or off-duty people, and make the proper initial attack. Constructing a training center, again, implementing those, the NFPA 1710 standards of the 4 firefighters on the scene. And then continue to improve our fire training, hydrant inspections, and response protocols. We didn't get full credit for our hydrant inspections in this grading because I told you they looked at 2022 and 2023. We didn't have any data in 2022 on that. We did all our hydrants in 2023, and of course 2024 when they come and look. So that's my presentation on the rating, but before I go into the EMS presentation, I don't know if you want me to answer questions now or wait to the end, Mr. Chairman?
Y'all have any questions?
Yeah, I got some.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you don't
Go
mind.
ahead, Brady.
Yeah, we all recognize that personnel is our biggest area of improvement to get to that next rating. Assuming that funding stays flat, what are ways that we can attract and retain talent? Attract and retain talent. Assuming that our funding just stays flat, we can't get additional
so
funding.
you know, I think that one of our, and we're doing a really good job with recruitment right now. We weren't doing so much of a good job. When I first started being involved with recruiting, we had trouble recruiting. You know, we had 11 vacancies out of 21 personnel. That's better. I think the EMS system is shown our lift in professionalism and shown our growth, and they see us more as a parish department, which makes it more attractable to people. But our biggest problem is, and we've come across firefighters, they'll come and say, well, I'd like to work there, but I'm not going to work by myself. That's not safe. I can go down here and, you know, and even for less money sometimes, you know. So I think that what we're doing here, you know, maintains talent. And look, we've, you know, in the last year and a half, we brought in some young folks. We brought in people who didn't know what a fire truck was. We picked them from high schools, and those I think are going to be really good people. So I think we're doing all the things that we can within our power. You know, to retain people. I mean, you know, the people we lost, you know, 1 to retirement, we lost 2 to go into the private sector. I mean, you know, that happens.
Would you say the biggest struggle is budget or funding?
Yeah, because we live within what the half-cent sales tax brings in, which is what we're supposed to do.
Right.
You know, I'm not, but again, for me to tell you that's enough money to provide an adequate level of fire protection, it's not.
Right.
You know.
Is there, is there in like within a 30-mile radius, is there a Class 1 rated fire department?
Yeah, so if you jump across the bridge, Zachary, Baton Rouge, St. George, Gonzales are Class 1s. District 6, East Side, Central, Prairieville, are Class 2s.
Okay.
You know, if you go into the Livingston, District 4, I think it just received their Class 3, but they cover 3 cities, very large area, and their problem is water. They tank water.
Throw in Baton Rouge and St. George out of the way, because I know they operate on millages as an income source, I think. I don't.
Yeah, it's a hodgepodge. I mean, Zachary operates on a millage and city funds.
Okay.
Baton Rouge does the same. St. George operates strictly on a millage. I think it's a little over 40-something mills right now.
What's Gonzales doing where they get to a Class 1? What
Yeah,
are
so
they doing
Gonzales has a Class 1 rating. They share a half-cent sales tax with the police, and they get money out the general.
Is it just bigger candidate pool in Gonzales? Like what
Oh,
makes them get to that 1?
Well, it's doing this. It's hitting all the marks. They got an excellent water system.
Okay.
You know, they got the personnel to get them to a 1. They're only required to have 2 fire stations. You know, so they get more credit for those numbers when you have lesser fire stations. I mean, they're hitting all these same marks.
But
you know?
I guess because they've got the personnel, what are they doing to get the personnel there? Are they paying more? Are they, newer facilities?
Well, we hired somebody from Gonzales to work on our ambulance service. So
Yeah.
I think, I think it's 2 people in the trucks. I think competitive pay-wise, we're there with what Gonzales pays. I think the EMS system drove a lot of people.
I was
to
going to say, I
Gonzales
talked to
back in
the chiefs about that. They said that that's been going well for them. If they had
Yep.
to do it all over again, they'd do it again. So I'm hoping that we see some similar
Well, I
result.
started for them. I
with
hope
ours.
they do it
Yep.
over again.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you. Appreciate
No,
it.
thank you.
Yeah, if I could just add just a couple quick things, and we still have room for improvement, things that we want. But if you look at where we have come in the last couple of years to where we are now, is huge improvements. The other potential revenue resource going forward is our ambulance service. At the end of this year, come budget time, we'll have a full year of
That's right. Data.
to be able to look at, see what type of revenue. We may not be able to afford that, Mercedes 18 folks, but we may be able to afford 6 or maybe additional folks. So it's just constant. We'll continue to analyze that and see, how we can best spend our tax.
Can't run a mile without taking the first step. So
That's good.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
No doubt.
And again, this is a victory. I mean, when you're able to do these things with a group, and you didn't give it no more money, you didn't go raise taxes. I mean, I think it's a success to show the public this rating and what I'm fixing to describe to you on the success of the ambulance service. I'm almost done, I promise.
Any more questions?
Yeah,
Butch?
but
Go
let me
ahead,
ask you a
Kenny.
question. Since the plan is for the new one up on the north end, so we're gonna have that one manned 24/7, right?
Yes, sir.
So
We
what-
already have one person up there now.
Okay, so so it's not gonna be a big strain on us to try to keep personnel up there, right?
Well, it's the same load we got now. We need personnel up there, but that station is gonna take the 2 stations that are up there now and collapse them into one. So it's still one station.
Okay.
You're eliminating, and honestly, the station you're gonna eliminate is that metal building on Section Road that doesn't have any,
Don't
it's
have
just a
nobody
storage
in it.
building. It doesn't have
Right,
anything. The mileage is gonna pick that up, so we need a station, but bringing it down to 1, it won't require us to have any more people.
But that would help with our rating too, right? Since
Oh,
we
yes,
got
sir. Well, it's gonna help with our response times. That location is a much more strategic location. You gotta realize when the people were individual departments, they were trying to do the best they could for the area they had. And, and that being the case, it wasn't advantageous for Irwinville to put that station up on the highway closer this way. It was to put it in Irwinville, which is,
Okay.
you can go to the intersection and see the parish line. So that station is not in the best location. Another good example is the Calumet station. It's in a total wrong place. It should have been further down the highway there, not at Calumet. But it was built for Port Allen, and Port Allen got a Class 2 rating back then. And the reason they did is most of the manpower you got today worked in Port Allen. So it worked well for them. So again, bringing all these together, there's decisions of the past that were the right decisions, but now that we're doing things differently, we got a time to readjust. And that's why moving that Irwinville station is really a good decision.
Okay.
where do we stand on that, by the way?
Sorry?
Was that planned to be done this year, or?
Actually, we'll be coming to you guys and introduce an ordinance to donate.
Okay.
Donate fireworks.
Oh, nice.
Wait on that, go for final approval.
Perfect.
But money-wise, we've got the money and everything for it with the state grants and all of that, right?
And I did want to mention, I got my credit in the mail today
You did?
for our fire rating performance.
How about that?
I
That's
checked
awesome.
my mailbox yet.
Hey,
Waiting on
proof's in the
mine.
pudding there. You can't
Yep.
talk about that. I
Y'all have
haven't
any
called
more-
my insurance
y'all have
agent
any
yet
more
to get
questions?
mine.
Yeah, go ahead, sir. Go ahead,
We
sir.
still have contract personnel?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, are they factored into that total of,
Yeah.
full-time?
And the contract people hurt us a little bit because, remember I tell you, you gotta be rostered. They get all their training at their individual department. We can't use but about 50% of that company training. They gotta repeat it on our other rating. So it's very hard when you got somebody that works 1 or 2 times a month to get 25 hours of training. But they are factored in.
Do the volunteers count towards the personnel deal?
They do. We used 2 volunteers on this rating because we only had 2 that had the minimum training
I got you.
that responded to a structure fire. But we use the volunteers as support on calls. I mean, they're very valuable in going to calls and helping. But I'm talking about somebody that can put on an air pack that, no pun intended, don't have a beard, conceal a mask, can put on an air pack and go and fight. We don't have a lot of those, but we use them for support. It works fine, But yeah, we did use 2 volunteers on the rating. All right, so
Move
the EMS service, I know y'all been seeing these things all around town, and they're doing more than just riding around. They're doing remarkable work. So basically, October through January was our beta period. Sometimes we had 1 working, sometimes we had 2, sometimes we had 3. It was getting our people trained. We're now really working well. But in that time period, we made 246 transports. As I speak to you today, the number is actually 572. So we've transported a total of 572 people since the inception. And the vast majority of those people are citizens and done remarkable jobs with that. On a revenue standpoint, and Chance and Philip and Jason don't like me talking about money, but I'll tell you that we budgeted this ambulance service on basically bringing in $500 per call. Right now, we're tracking at about $605 per call. And the important thing about that is we don't really have the full data because we're running different trucks. We've been at 3 trucks here the last few days, and that's going to continue. We'll actually have more calls come in. Plus, it took about 2 months for Blue Cross to make their first payment to us just because getting set up. So we're tracking where we thought we need to be, which is good. And it's not about making money. It's about cost recovery so we can do a better service. Of course, at the end of the day, there's no out-of-pocket to a parish resident. That's the big thing. And hopefully in the next, like Parish President said, the next 6 to 8 months, we'll be able to bring you some numbers to say this is how much money that our parish residents didn't have to pay out of pocket. And from a quality of life, for taking care of the elderly people, I think that's going to be huge. So again, as of February, we've been running 2 units. We're scheduling 3 this month. And look, a lot of that had to do with getting started. We knew we had to bring revenue in to pay the expenses. You all didn't budget additional money for the service. The money that was budgeted was what was coming in. So I think we fanned it just right. The big thing is our 90-day average response time right now is 9 minutes and 29 seconds, which is huge, much better than we've certainly seen, and it's because we've added to the capacity. What we do with Acadian Ambulance is great. They're a great partner, and we work really good together. But we're adding capacity to the system, and we're not sharing our capacity with other jurisdictions. So it's very, very good. So already from a success standpoint, and I want to share it with you. There's been no out-of-pocket expense to parish residents. A snapshot on March 4th, 2025. In that one day, we transported 9 emergency patients, 2 were critical, and 1 was a cardiac arrest. Our medic units have responded to 3 structure fires, the 4th one as we're speaking to right now, and added 4 additional firefighters to our firefighting team. So what we set out to do, it's doing, and recruitment has been very successful. Just last night, we had a 60-year-old lady who was hit by a vehicle on LA 415. Our medic unit was 2 minutes away. While on scene, the lady went into cardiac arrest. They were able to revive her. They got her en route to the hospital. She went into cardiac arrest again. They brought her to the trauma center, and they stayed to help in the trauma transfer. She went into cardiac arrest again, and the hospital revived her, and as of right now, she's still living. And I say that 2 minutes made all the difference in the world. And look, you always hear you can't put a price on life. You can't be everywhere every time. We all try hard, but this is where it works. So in that spirit, I'll answer any questions, but we do have a guest here, Ms. Sally Kalot from Bruley, and I think she might want to address the council on experience that she had.
Absolutely, yes,
And
ma'am.
I know Councilman Walker, you'll put her on to us. So.
Yes, ma'am. Come on up. State your name again for the record.
Sally Calais. A lot of people mispronounce our names, but it's C-A-L-L-A-I-S, so that's fine. So January 19th, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and thought I was having an anxiety attack. So just kind of went about my morning, started feeling a little bit better, went about my morning with coffee and grandkids, and around 10 o'clock, I started not being able to walk as much. I was having a hard time breathing. And so my husband went and got the blood pressure cuff, and we took my blood pressure, and it was crazy. So went back, I said, let me go lay down for a little while. Well, it wasn't long that I called my husband, and we called 911. And I don't know if it was 9 minutes, but they were there pretty quick. And they saved my life, for sure. I was having a massive heart attack. They were super, I was conscious pretty much the whole time. They were very respectful of of me and my house, and just, I think, gave me the utmost care. So I'm just very grateful to the two gentlemen. I think it was a gentleman and possibly a young lady that was there, but I don't remember everything. If they were here today, I would want to thank them, because they did. I never went into cardiac arrest, which was a great thing, but I do remember them giving me aspirin and doing the whole EKG. They were on the phone, on the radio, with the hospital. They were there. They got me into the emergency room. So anyway, they were instrumental in getting me at a stable place where the cardiologist could do my heart cath and put in my stent. So thanks for the EMS.
That's awesome.
For sure. I think
Great
they're doing
story.
a great job. So
Happy to see you on your feet, and thank you for
yeah, it's
Thank
only
you
been-
for sharing that with us.
Yeah, no
Appreciate it.
problem.
Thank you very
So-
much for sharing that. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Butch? Butch,
I was just going to
yeah,
recognize.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, sure.
Alexa, you want to come forward? This is one of our newest
Oh,
paramedics.
okay.
And she graduated the fire academy,
Oh,
so we're adding
awesome.
to our numbers. So I wanted to recognize her, and maybe we can take a picture.
We
if
can
y'all
sure
don't
do
mind.
that.
My name is Alexi. I was an EMT for 3 years with Acadian, recruited over here as a paramedic, and went through the fire academy, had a blast doing that. So now I get to be a paramedic and a firefighter. I really do enjoy, doing the medical calls. I've definitely seen a change in the residents' happiness with us being there as quick as we can, and the treatment we provide for them. And on top of that, I get to go play with some fire and have a little bit of fun with that, change it up on a daily basis as well. So thank y'all for having this medic unit and giving us an opportunity to provide for the parish. So
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you for your service. Is there any more questions, Butch, while these meeting's still forward? Before we adjourn, I'd like to make just a general comment. First off, thank you, Butch, for the presentation. It was very good. I can't go back on the slides. One of the first ones that kind of caught my eye is, and I'm going off of memory here, but I saw a bunch of 4s, some 5s, and some 6s. And in my simple way of doing math or anything, and I just looking at it and calculating it real quick as fast as I could, it almost is like Parishwide. If you kind of did us Parishwide, we were like a 5.
4.8.
4.8, almost 5. And we went all the way to a 3. And I just think that's phenomenal. And I want to just thank you first and all of your staff for what they've done in the last 2 years. And we really do appreciate it that we're a class 3 now instead of a 5, 4.8. And I just think that's phenomenal. Thank y'all so much for what you've done.
Agreed.
So, okay. Any other questions, council? Any comments? I think we're good. We're gonna go ahead and adjourn. We'll start the council meeting at,
Jason got something.
Jason, I'm sorry, yeah. I didn't see you.
Yeah, and the good thing about, we, like I said, we made drastic
also have a vision, Butch has a vision of where we want to get.
Right.
To and how do we
Absolutely.
get to that point. It's just a matter of making those things come to fruition. So I'm real pleased with the direction we're heading.
Great, great. We're gonna go ahead and adjourn the council meeting. We'll take a 5-minute break, start at 5:40.